All right, what is going on, everybody? Good morning. Wednesday, November 6th, 8:02. Guys, I'm late. Got to be honest with everybody. Kind of time flew by while I was prepping. I thought I was good to go. I'm like, no problem, right at 8 o'clock. I'm 2 minutes late. So I'm going to just kind of get that right out the gate. You better believe I'm going till 9:02, minimum 9:02. I mean, I can't even look back all the other times that I've gone past 8 or I've gone past 9 a.m. That doesn't count. I mean, working overtime doesn't mean now all of a sudden you could slack on when you start. My apologies here. I am just a employer here at Hoops Talk. That's all I am. The Sliwa Show, I'm just an employer. So I'm gonna probably get written up a little bit later today for coming into work a little bit late. And three strikes, I fire my ass. I'm out of here if I do this three times in a row. I appreciate you guys hanging out. You guys see the steam coming up. Look at that steam coming up. You know what I do now? Let me tell you guys what I do. Just because people want the steam, they want to make sure when I go live, I got a fresh cup of Joe. So I finish my first cup of coffee. And then right before the show starts, probably part of the reason why I'm a little bit late this morning as well. Right when the show is about to kind of get moving, what's one of the first things that I do? I go back over there, I pour a brand new cup of Joe, and then I get ready so you guys can see the steam. There's no BS. You can't BS the steam on this cup of coffee. I appreciate you guys hanging out. Wednesday, November 6th. We got a lot to get into. Obviously, a long day last night. Not going to lie. I don't know how into the election that you guys get, but I basically become an investigative reporter, and I'm up till freaking the crack of dawn. I mean, I was up at 1 o'clock like it was nothing. I'm like, all right, let's finish the results here. Like, what's this thing going to look like? So anyways, we're not going to do a lot of political talk because people hallucinate with politics. But obviously a lot going on yesterday, and then we got a lot going on our show today. Okay, I mentioned this last week, and I didn't do a very good job of doing it just because the show got incredibly busy. On Wednesdays, we do an Ask Slee. Wednesdays, basically, any question that you got for me. It can be about anything. You want to make it personal, you can make it personal. You want to make it about sports? I'm already kind of talking sports already. I mean, I don't know if we got to get into sports, but whatever it is that you want to get into, Ask Slee every Wednesday. You could throw your questions in now, and then I'll answer them towards the end of the show. I got a good buddy of mine, somebody that I really look up to in the industry that has probably about 35 years of experience in sports talk radio. That's going to join me at 8:15. John Kentera, the coach, John Kentera. I think a lot of people know the coach. If you're out here in Southern California, a lot of people know him. I got another channel that's focused on San Diego sports, and John is the one that's putting up a lot of the content there. So he's going to join at 8:15. And primarily why I'm going to bring him on, I want to talk MLB free agency. I got a lot of Dodger questions for him. He's had a relationship with Dave Roberts for a number of years. He's a San Diegan and a San Diego Padre fan, but he's also a huge baseball fan. What's interesting with his podcast that he does, a lot of Dodger fans on there. A lot of Dodger fans want his insight, so I figured why not bring him on here? We could talk a little. A couple things I got on the Padres, couple things I got on the Dodgers, and we keep going from there. Lakers got a game, obviously, a little bit later today, so they're taking on the final game of their 5-game road trip against the Memphis Grizzlies. They got to figure out how to get their asses back on track. I'll tell you that right now. I have sort of a solution. I don't know if I even believe my solution, but I'm going to try to sell it. I'm going to try to be like I'm selling a timeshare on how the Lakers are going to turn things around. And I don't know if you guys ever been to a timeshare presentation, but sometimes those don't go well. I think it's all about, how many pitches can you get out there until you finally close a deal? So we'll do a little bit of that. Dodgers free agency. I'm curious to throw some names out at Dodger fans out there and see how much interest they have in Juan Soto specifically. There's a report today that I was reading on ESPN that Soto is probably going to be around 13 years, 600 and change. That could be his potential contract. Is it smart for the Dodgers to go after Juan Soto, I know that kind of sounds, well, of course you go after Juan Soto, but they're pretty strategic with how they do things. And is it Juan Soto that you want, or do you want the Dodgers kind of using their money in different ways and being a little bit more strategic? So I still think he's going to stay out on the East Coast, but we can get your guys' thoughts on that. All right, do I got anything else on there? I got pretty much everything. If you got some Ask Lee questions, go ahead and throw them in, and I appreciate you guys hanging out on this Wednesday morning at 8:07 a.m. Busy night last night. Lot going on. Whatever side you're on. Whatever side you're on. Republican, you're walking around today like it's the greatest day ever. You're a Democrat, the world's about to end. Why don't we all just kind of come a little bit closer to the middle? Huh? Why don't I just everybody not be a little bit too extreme? Let's all kind of come a little bit closer to the center here. All right, let's get started with the show. And I do want to start the show talking a little Lakers basketball, and then John will come on here in about less than 10 minutes or so. Lakers basketball. Let's talk some Laker hoops here for a quick second. I was listening to I spent some time listening this morning to Sammy doing his preview video, and he's talking about the upcoming Lakers game. So Lakers Grizzlies. If you haven't got a chance to go see it, go listen. He's doing a great job. I love the insight that he's given on a lot of these. But part of the vibe that I could tell from Sammy, and part of the vibe that I feel like I could tell from Laker fans right now, the vibe right now around Lakers basketball is, did they just start the season out 3-0, but they're really not a good team? I would say if you asked me today, hey, where do you think the Lakers are going to land by the time 82 games are done? Is it going to be more similar to how it's been over the past few years where they're around that 7 through 10 mark? Or is it going to be different? Is it going to be different and they're one of the top 6 teams in the NBA, something along those lines? Is it going to be where exactly will the Lakers fall? As of today, the way I feel like, and maybe this changes. I mean, if they win tonight, now they're 5-3, and you got a chance to actually go probably 7-3 with the next couple of matchups that they have coming up. Sure, it could change. But what I've seen so far from the Lakers this year, I got some real concerns. I do. I have some real concerns about this team. And they're probably, when the dust settles, going to be fighting again right between that 7 and 10 range like they've had for the last couple of years. I don't think it is crazy to say that there's Laker fans out there that are discouraged about where the Lakers are, how this road trip has gone so far, the fact that they started this road trip out 1-3. And I don't think it's crazy. Part of being discouraged as a Laker fan right now is watching these games and seeing, well, how did they lose? Was it just a bad shooting night? Was it just poor execution towards the end of the games? Or was it something else? The Pistons game for me that they had on Monday night in Detroit, they came out really just thinking they were good enough to win a game against the Pistons team that's not considered to do all that much this year. The Lakers should never, ever, especially this team and this roster, walk into a game thinking, we got this. Because the reality is they don't have anything. I think every game a lot of times is going to be a fight for the Lakers. But I'm going to try to make a case of why things are going to turn around for the Lakers and what the formula is for the Lakers to turn things around. The Pistons game highlights a lot of flaws that the Lakers have. And we've already talked about it. The bench, the depth. I put out a video yesterday. Actually, I took it from this. I put out a clip. And I saw so many Laker comments when I said that, where's the Lakers depth and where's the Lakers bench? And just the comments there of basically frustrated Laker fans giving their opinion. This is what the Lakers are going to have to do in order not to just churn this around for the short term, but also looking long term for the Lake Show. A couple things have to happen. And if they don't happen, then we're probably going to see a little bit more than we'll be seeing over these last 4 games where they've really struggled, specifically on the road. This is what has to happen. LeBron and AD pretty much have to be great every single night, which is not out of the ordinary. Is AD going to have a night where he struggles? Sure, but he hasn't had one of those so far this year. He's been great. I would say of all the teams in the NBA right now, of all the individual players in the NBA, you're saying that, okay, over this couple of weeks that the NBA has started, who are the top 3 players in the NBA? Anthony Davis can be one of those guys. LeBron has to be great. Now, LeBron could be great in his own way. LeBron doesn't have to be great the way he was when he was 28 years old, the way he was when he was 32 years old. But LeBron has to be efficient. He's got to pick his spots. He's still got to grab you 7-8 rebounds. He's still got to dish out 7-8 assists. I still think LeBron, night in and night out, even though it's not fair to ask him to do that, will still do that. Put both of those players to the side. And then I think now we're in the meat of the conversation. Reeves and D'Lo need to be better, period. D'Angelo Russell has had a really disappointing start to the season. Austin Reeves is so careless sometimes with the basketball, and he's not a player that has the ball in his hands like some of these elite point guards. He's got to be smarter. He's got to be better. But both of those guys have to be much more efficient on offense. And I don't know if this is going to change. They can't be that big of liabilities on defense, and they might just be. Let me keep going down the list. Rui Hachimura. That's a frustrating one for me. Rui's a frustrating player for me. When I watch Rui play, I lose more and more confidence at times. And I hate to say it, but I do. Rui's going to have to be better. I think at the end of the day, I look at this Lakers team, and the question of what this team is going to come down to is those role players going to be more reliable, and will the Lakers have some sort of a bench? Max Christie, stop playing and stop thinking when you play and just play freaking basketball. That guy seems like he's in his head. Gabe Vincent, turn around your game, or everybody in that heat from Laker fans is just going to get louder and louder that he's got to be a player that finds ways to contribute a little bit more. Last thing I'll say too, and then I'm going to get into a quote from Anthony Davis, and then we'll have John on. I think right now you got to play Dalton Connect more as well. You got to kind of just say, screw it. Let's let this guy play and give him 15 to 20 minutes a game and just see what you have from him. Let him learn on the fly, because Lakers got no depth. That bench does not look solid. And there isn't, the help that's going to be coming is probably still a couple weeks away. I say you take your chances with Dalton Connect. I'm going to read you one quick quote here from Anthony Davis. I thought this was interesting. Anthony Davis, Lakers are two different teams right now. He talked about it after the game. This was on Spectrum. We just weren't physical. He's talking obviously about the game against the Pistons. But there's a specific quote that I think he says, and I'll go back to it. We're just two different teams right now. One game we're this team, who shows it can be one of the better teams in the league. Then the next, we're this team, who I don't even know who we are. So we just got to be better. And he goes on about the starters. They got to do more, and just continues on. I think that's the perfect way to describe the Lakers right now. I don't know what they are. I don't think anybody really knows completely what they are so far. So it kind of is what it is of where the Lakers are sitting today. But I think Anthony Davis's quote is the right quote. The good news for the Lakers, and not that you want to back into potential W's because other teams are missing their key players, but tonight they got Ja Morant in Memphis, no Marcus Smart, no Desmond Bane. You got a legitimate shot to win this game. They got a game coming up on Friday against the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid is suspended for 3 games for an altercation with a reporter. So there are 2 games coming up on your schedule. You got Toronto coming up on Sunday. That's 3 straight games there where you either have a team that doesn't have enough talent, a team that's missing their best player, or a team missing 2 of their key role players in the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll see if the Lakers can take advantage, but that's what they're going to have in front of them. And obviously that's going to be part of the conversation here as we continue to go. Okay. As I mentioned, good friend of mine, one of the when I say this, I'm not saying this lightly. When I say one of the OGs of the industry, one of the original gangsters, as we like to say, Mr. John Kentera himself. John, what's going on, brother? How are you?
Well, I'm doing well, Alan. Really enjoying your show. Well, I tell you what, that game the other night against Detroit, my language in my living room during dinner wasn't all that great. My wife she goes, man, you turn into a different guy when you're watching Laker basketball. But that was ugly. I mean, that first period, and I kept thinking they were going to come back, and it just got worse and worse. You talk about the bench. Well, you know what? The bench was non-existent. And then I take a look at what Detroit did the other night. I think they had 27 bench points the other night. Anthony Davis talking about, one night we're, one of the better teams in the league. Next night we're not. Well, you know what? Really, it kind of comes down to LeBron and Anthony Davis. They're leaders on this team. I don't know what the hell they were doing up there in Toronto. They spent 4 nights up there. What the heck was going on? I mean, they obviously weren't ready to play against Detroit, and hopefully tonight against Memphis, which has already been an awful road trip. They got to find a way to get a win. If not, they limp home at the 500 mark, and after a 3-0 start, Pretty disappointing for all of us Laker fans.
Well, I'm okay. I'm gonna set some people up here, and we'll stay on the Lakers for a quick second, and then we'll jump into some baseball free agency. So, for those who don't know, and I know a lot of people here in Southern California, obviously know John Kentera and his history, longtime history in sports talk radio in SoCal. But for those who don't know, Coach, you get as frustrated in Laker games, I think you do in anything else. That's what you've told me in the past. I remember growing up, I was 15, 16 years old, something like that. You used to have your show, and it was in the evening. It was on Extra Sports 690, and Lakers were in the middle of their playoff run. I think this is early Kobe and Shaq days. And I'd tune into you after games because you would then all of a sudden start breaking down these playoff games, Laker games, and everything else. I know you got a long history, long fandom with the organization and with the Lakers specifically. They are 7 games in. They're 4-3. What? Tell me some things that you feel good about with this Lakers team, and then just some things that are just there's not really much to debate. You have some real concerns of.
Well, I think you got to start with Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis is playing at a different level. I know he's had a little bit of a foot injury. He talked about, even going back to the summer, but he's been fantastic. LeBron's been good, not great. I think he's deferred a little bit, tried to get other guys involved early on. But you were talking about D'Angelo Russell. He's been awful. He's been awful. And
Mm-hmm.
Austin Reeves has been okay in some games, not so good in other games. Rui
Nobody, coach,
Hachimura.
and coach. Nobody's consistent. No, like I think that the 3 guys that you just mentioned, Rui, D'Lo, and Austin Reeves, either all 3 of them can have a good game. All 3 of them can have a bad game. All 3 of them can feel like they're not playing. I don't really know. Reeves may be the more consistent of the 3, but I have no idea what each one of these guys are going to produce every night.
Well, Rui Hachimura, I think you hit it right on the head. When he came over in that deal, I was really excited, and I thought he was really going to be able to spread his wings. And you go back a couple of years ago to the playoffs, he played, I think, very well. Last year, at times, he played well. He missed some time last year, and I keep waiting, Alan, for him to take that next step as an NBA player. And he may be one of those guys that never gets to where you and I and all the Laker fans think he should get to,
Mm,
but he's still a good player. It's just, some nights you may not get the ball in certain situations in good offensive territory. I mean, your teammates have to set you up a little bit. You can't, night in, night out, have to always create your own shot. You got to get a few easy buckets here and there, kind of get your game going. But, Gabe Vincent, what's he brought to the Lakers? I mean, he's probably one guy that I'm really disappointed in. I thought I was pretty excited when he
sure.
signed a year ago. He missed almost all of last year, and then you come back and play a couple of games, and he'd be out again. I watch him shoot the ball. I mean, I'm 66 years of age, and I don't shoot, very often anymore. But man, I think I could beat him in a 3-point contest, and I'm not joking. I'm serious. They're getting nothing out of him. Dalton Connect, I think, has a really good opportunity to be a really good NBA player. And the one thing that he's got, a lot of guys don't have, and that's the ability to shoot the basketball.
Mm.
I totally agree with you. They've got to find a way. I don't care how you do it. You got to find a way to get that guy more minutes than he's getting right now. And if he gives up a little bit on the defensive end, in the NBA, it's always a work in progress on defense, and it's not individual defense as much as it is team defense. You got to get him in there, and you know what? He's an older rookie. He knows how to play the game of basketball. I think you just got to throw him in there, give him a few more opportunities, and let his game grow quickly.
Yeah. By the way, and what he kind of got to lose. It's not like there's this unbelievable depth on the Lakers bench where you're saying, well, if you play Dalton Connect, you're taking minutes away from this guy or that guy. That's not the case. So yeah, I'd like to see him get thrown more into the fire. Coach, he's got 2 qualities. One that you just said, he can. He's a threat from the outside. He's a complete laser, but he also has this. It feels like he's not intimidated. He's 23 years old, so there's such a difference. Guys that are probably walking to the league at 19 and guys that are walking in at 23, it is a big difference. So I feel like he has this confidence that he does belong. So I think that part is important too. Okay, one more here on the NBA, and I'm going to move on. I don't know if you saw Celtics head coach, and I think you're the right person to ask. I'm going to probably have Michael Thompson on next week as well. A little bit more old school basketball. Joe Mazzulla had a quote out there about he'd like the NBA to be more physical. Why are you taking fights away? They can do it in hockey. They could do it in baseball. Why are we taking it away? What's the right balance there? What's the right balance of not wanting to watch? Because I don't need to see the UFC in the NBA, but I do understand the entertainment and drama side of it. Would you like to see these guys allowed to play rougher and tougher, or do you like where the game is today?
I'd like to see a little bit more physical basketball, not to the point where guys are throwing elbows and you're getting in fights, the old Bill Laimbeer, Ricky Mahorn type days. But you know what? The game has gotten, I think, very, very soft, and a lot of it has to do with just 3-point shooting more than anything else. Guys don't want to go in there and they don't want to get hit. I remember when I went to college, Alan. The first practice I had, and this was junior college. Junior college basketball back in the 70s was pretty rough and tumble, to be honest with you. And did we get in fights? Absolutely. We got in fights in practice. We got in fights in games. And not that you want to, make a big deal out of that. You want to
Sure.
play good, clean basketball. But, I think there's a point in time when guys come down the lane, they just can't coast down the lane. You got to let them know that you're going to pay a price if you're going to the bucket. And our coach used to say that that painted area, that's the Holy Land. You don't let anybody come in there. And nowadays, I mean, they're constantly going to the monitor. This guy get hit in the shoulder? Do you get hit in the head? It slows down the flow of the basketball game. I think the game has really gotten more finesse oriented. And I think there has to be a balance between finesse and power. I think a lot of the power has gone away because it's gotten to be more of a 3-point shooting contest than anything else. But I'd like to see it become a little bit more physical. But again, it also goes to the ability of the officials. The officials are calling what they're being told to call.
Yeah.
I think they probably would have to change the way they're going about it. It would probably take a period of time for the officials to adjust to that. But when you call a foul on a guy, it's because he's got an advantage over, say, the defender. I mean, defend. Is it a move that's hindering the defender? Is he gaining an advantage by hand checking him or pushing him? Advantage, disadvantage, and that's what officials have to call.
Yeah, and it's not on. You're right, and so much of this has gone towards the offensive players having the advantage. Then you got offensive players that are working these referees because they find ways to put their arm under a guy's arm. Yeah, they're creating fouls that are not natural fouls.
Right.
So I'm with you. I think there is a balance. It's interesting that a head coach in the NBA. It doesn't surprise me that it's Mazzulla that's basically saying, "Hey, let these guys go at it a little bit." I think there probably is a fine balance of figuring out, yes, the game is beautiful in its own right with guys like Steph Curry, but at the same time, I'm also watching Lakers basketball so far this year, and they're sending an invitation into the paint, and there is nobody that's pushing them around. That's not fun basketball either.
Hey, let me say this. You
Yeah.
mentioned Steph Curry. He's probably as good a long-range shooter as we've ever seen in the NBA. If Steph Curry was playing in the mid 70s, there'd be guys that, guys like Michael Cooper,
Oh yeah.
they would knock Steph Curry up about 10 rows, and he'd probably have to go to the turnstile to buy a ticket to get back in the arena. That's just the way they
Well,
would
he might
play.
make the shot from the turnstile as well. That's
Well,
the
he
other
might
part
make
with
the
Steph
shot, but
Curry.
I'll tell you what, he's probably going to pay the price to make that shot.
You're right about that. That was there's a balance there. I don't know what that balance is, but there is. Okay, coach, I want to spend some time talking about MLB free agency. I'm going to start here with the Dodgers. Obviously, they are the World Series champs. Got to give credit where credit is due. You and I both out here in San Diego, both big Padres fans, wanted nothing more than to see the Padres get to the World Series and see what they can do. But the Dodgers found a way. It felt like once they beat the Padres, they had a path to go win a World Series. I know you have a personal relationship with him, but can you talk about the moves Dave Roberts made throughout the postseason? And it felt like every single move he made worked. And I know you were one of the few that thought it was a ridiculous argument to fire Dave Roberts based on what he's done so far in his career with the Dodgers. Just your thoughts on that World Series run by the Dodgers and specifically how Dave Roberts was able to make the moves that he made.
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, I think Dave probably went into the postseason with a lot of heat on him. I don't know from an organizational standpoint, if they were taking a good hard look. Obviously, guys like John Smoltz and Joe Davis, praised Dave Roberts throughout the course of the postseason. But the Dodger fan base, I always joke, and you get a smile on your face when I say this. Dave Roberts could go 162-0, win everything, and people would still be upset because they didn't win by 5 runs. They only won by 3 runs. Okay. Dave Roberts had a remarkable offseason. And John Smoltz, I think, hit it on the head on his broadcast that he'd never seen a manager do a better job in the postseason than Dave Roberts. And I think when you go
Hmm.
back and look at all the failures of the Dodgers in the postseason, a lot of it was over managing, and it was over managing the pitching staff. And I'm not completely 100% convinced that Dave Roberts was the guy that was making all those decisions. I think, they've got what they like to call, and the Padres like to call, a collaborative effort. Well, sometimes that collaborative effort, you got too many fingers in the pie. I think Dave Roberts had much more latitude
Autonomy.
this
Hmm.
time around. And a couple of things. Number one, I think he made all the right moves. He obviously, like a good major league manager, you're always thinking ahead an inning or two. And with that pitching staff, he had to definitely do that. I think Mark Pryor and I think the front office has to get a lot of credit as well, just because they really mapped that thing out strategically. So certain pitchers wouldn't go against certain guys, a third time maybe in the postseason. The more you go against a pitcher, the more as a hitter you get comfortable. And I think they did a good job in that area. But with all that being said, the players still had to go out and execute. And you go back to that Padres series when the Padres were really, they had the Dodgers, by the short hairs. Okay. It was
Hmm.
that simple. But the Padres got, and you talked about it, they got cocky, a
Sure.
little bit arrogant. They showed some of their immaturity in the postseason. And the Dodgers came back. They won with that bullpen game. Then they won the next night to close it out up at Dodger Stadium. Just everything Dave touched. He had the Midas touch, but a lot of it came down to having a feel for his players, knowing the matchups, but players also go out and executing. But the other thing that I think we found out more about Dave Roberts publicly is in the past, a lot of the players wouldn't necessarily go out of their way. They answer the questions that are asked to them. But guys like Max Muncy and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, they were all going out of their way to praise Dave Roberts and going, God, we have a bad day, but Dave's always patting us on the back saying, hey, it's going to turn around. Let's go get him today. And Dave Roberts has really turned into being an outstanding leader. And I think he's going to the Hall of Fame. Right now, he's got the highest winning percentage of any manager that's managed over 1,000 games. He's won a division title every year but one. But the year they lost to the Giants, they won 106 games. He's been to 4 World Series. He's won 2. He's actually done more than Tommy Lasorda.
Hmm. Well, okay, that's a good perspective to put it in, and you got to give. I don't think there's a Dodger fan now that's obviously not giving him his flowers. Yeah, I think he had, and you probably said it best. It was almost a flawless postseason run. I can't think of a moment in the postseason where you say, what the hell was Dave Roberts doing right there? And whether that was him making all those decisions, maybe the front office of the Dodgers adjusted as well and said, listen, we can depend on analytics, but there's going to be a feel to the game as well. And there's going to be certain situations where analytics is not going to be able to make a decision for us. And it felt like the Dodgers were not as predictable this postseason run that they've been in the past. But maybe it's also just that you had players come through for you, that Freddie Freeman did have 12 RBIs in the World Series and started the World Series with a grand slam. They had a 33-inning stretch where they didn't give up a run with their starting pitching and their bullpen. They had moments where Yamamoto was completely untouchable. They had Walker Buehler come back and all of a sudden look like the Walker Buehler from 2020. Maybe it's a combination of all that. As we look into free agency, you've been one of the few that I feel like has been very critical of Juan Soto. We got to see Juan Soto in San Diego. we had a chance for him, obviously, to be here, and Padres went on a run with him in 2022 and then didn't make the playoffs in 2023. There have been some rumors that the Dodgers might make a play for Juan Soto. I saw some numbers this morning that I think it was 13 years and 600 and change or something along those lines. What do you think? How aggressive do you think the Dodgers should be at making a run specifically at Juan Soto?
I think there's no doubt Juan Soto is a tremendously gifted hitter. He's not a complete ball player. He's a very average at best outfielder. He's 26 years of age. I think in his early 30s, he'll probably end up being a designated hitter. The Dodgers already have a designated hitter for another 9 years that I'm aware of. The guy's pretty good. I know he's going to be coming off shoulder surgery. We found out about that yesterday, and we'll see. They're saying he's going to be ready for spring training, Ohtani. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I think there's more to Soto. You got to dig down and get to know the player and the person, I think, a little bit more. And I think if they do that, they've got to figure out if they sign him, can he conform to be a Dodger or could he, be a Padre? Obviously, it worked out for 1 year with the New York Yankees. And I know the Yankees are going to go full throttle as well as the Mets, maybe Toronto. They seem to have a lot of money they want to give away, kind of like the Giants, but they came up short last year in Ohtani. Soto was a very interesting guy here when he was in San Diego, Alan. In between innings, a lot of people won't even talk about this, but I'll talk about it because it's not gonna. I'm not gonna get fired for talking about it. Okay. Juan Soto, in between innings, would go into the dugout, go into the clubhouse, get his telephone, and then go in the batting cage and watch the game on TV. I don't know who he was texting. I don't know who he was talking to. And then, with a couple outs, he'd go back into the clubhouse and put his phone down, go back into the dugout, and then, resume playing. Obviously, he was playing for a contract, and he didn't want to meet with Bob Melvin, the manager, one-on-one. He always wanted to make sure he had representation, namely Scott Boras, at his side anytime that the manager would want to talk to him about something. I've said all along, I think it was addition by subtraction with Juan Soto. And I think the Padres ended up getting some really good pieces. I mean,
Sure.
obviously, Michael King paid off. Randy Vasquez helped them out when they needed a fifth starter. Not that he's a Cy Young Award winner, but he chewed up a lot of innings. Johnny Brito early in the year. Kyle Higashioka did a heck of a job behind the plate. And they got Drew Thorpe, who they ended up trading to the Chicago White Sox, and they got Dylan Cease. So that trade through the first year for the Padres worked out very well, and it worked out for the New York Yankees. But
Sure.
going forward, if he doesn't go back to the Yankees, I think the Padres win the trade.
Yeah, it's funny as I look at some of the comments here, and I think it's very natural for a fan base to say, "Oh my gosh, look at that player! Absolutely, you're crazy not to want Juan Soto." But I'll read some of these here. Ivan Soto's a mercenary. Forget that guy. He's a DH. Lance, don't want Soto. Um, Here's another one here. This more kind of having to do with the balance of power should go elsewhere. MLB needs more balance. Soto will stay in New York. He'll go to one of these teams either way. Big pass on Soto. Soto looks more about himself. This is not,
I think those are fair comments. I think the mercenary comment was right on. And I do think to this point in time, I think he does think about himself. It's more about money than winning, I think. I mean, he's been fortunate. He won a world title at a very young age with Washington. Obviously had a chance this year, came up short, but he has already kind of shown to me that he's all about the money. And once you get all that money in that long-term contract, sometimes guys get a little complacent.
Sure, especially if he's grabbing a 13-year contract. By the way, and look, I was a huge fan of Soto when he was in San Diego, but you could tell when he was with the Yankees, it did on a contract year and was going to be in the spotlight the entire time. Media coverage was going to be a lot different. He looked, let's just say his physique looked different in New York than I think it looked in San Diego.
Absolutely. There's no doubt he got himself in really, really good shape.
Yeah.
He was getting a little chunky out here on a lot of those, California burritos, I think.
Yeah. Come on, John. I mean, I feel like you're talking directly to me. Listen. I know I go away from a California. I should pass on a couple of those California
Well, I'm
burritos.
not going to exactly go down to the beach and wear my Speedo, I can tell you that.
um, Coach, I got a question on. This is a good comment here, and I think it's interesting. And I think you can have a different perspective on this. Do you like the way baseball's structured? That teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mets and Padres had a quick moment there where they were big spenders under Peter Seidler, but that's not something that you knew was going to be sustainable. People will make the case that the league is balanced because nobody is winning two or three World Series in a row. That has not been the case since the Yankees early on. But I will tell you what money can do, and I know it doesn't guarantee you anything. The Dodgers have guaranteed themselves basically the NL West and a postseason run. And by just doing that, you're giving yourself obviously a better opportunity than everybody else to win a World Series. But the Dodgers are also very well ran. Their farm system is one of the elite farm systems in baseball every single year. They crop a lot of their own players. And then when they go out, it's not just going out and spending money. Mookie Betts, I don't care what he's making. That's a good contract. Freddie Freeman, I don't care what he's making. That's a good contract. They've also gone out and got the right guys, even though they've went out and spent money. But do you like the way baseball's structured this
Well,
way?
I'd like to see some type of salary cap. To be honest with you, to
I'm
let
with you. I'm with you.
every a team. But you know what? Everything you're describing, the Dodgers would be good regardless if there was a salary cap or not. I mean, they may not have all those great stars on the same team, okay? But the thing the Dodgers do, and it goes back to history of the game of baseball. Branch Rickey, okay, drafting, and of course they didn't have the draft when Branch Rickey. They just go out and sign guys. Think about this: they had Roberto Clemente, and they lost him. Okay, but they had so many different. They had 26 minor league teams at one point in time. Do you know that, Alan? The
Mm.
Dodgers one time years, back in the 40s, they had 26 minor league baseball teams, and but at the end of the day, they do a great job now of drafting, developing their own, and they end up, trading them and, getting good players in return. But the thing that the Dodgers do, I think, better than anybody is they vet these guys. They bring in guys of great character. And you watch post game interviews. And I'm not saying, because a guy does a great post game interview, he's a great ball player and this and that. But they got guys that really get the big picture. I mean, Mookie Betts a high quality guy. Freddie Freeman, a high quality guy. Otani. You go up and down that Dodger roster, they have guys with great mental makeup. And I scouted for Kansas City and the Marlins many years ago. And I'm a big makeup guy.
Mm.
And when I was coaching, I knew guys could play. I mean, anybody could tell if a guy could play or not. But what's that guy going to do when he gets his butt kicked 4 or 5 days in a row? Is he going to sit around the clubhouse and moan and complain? Or is he going to go out there and work hard and get the other guys to work hard and get back on track? I think the Dodgers have those type of guys. I think Dave Roberts is a perfect guy to manage that ball club. The people, and it's tough for me to say because I'm such a big Padre fan since being a little boy. But when the Padres first started out, people in San Diego that aren't diehard Padre fans, they don't know when C. Arnhold Smith owned the Padres, the original owner of the Padres. Who did they hire to start their organization? E.J. Buzzy Bavasi. What organization did he come from? He came from the Los Angeles Dodgers. What manager did they hire? They hired the third base coach of the Los Angeles Dodgers, guy by the name of Preston Gomez. They brought those guys in because they were coming from a first class organization, knew how to build a winner and develop ball players. And obviously, that first year when they lose 110 games. But that's going to happen when you're taking everybody else's players that nobody wanted.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, the Dodgers do a lot of things right. People are jealous of them. I'm envious of them because I'd like the Padres to be like the Dodgers. But we're closing the gap. There's no doubt about it. We're closing the gap. Padres let a golden opportunity get away this year because this was really the year to get the Dodgers.
Well, and I think, I from I think a San Diego perspective, you don't you got to do it your own way. You can't do it the way the Dodgers are doing it, period. You can't beat them at their own game. But I think the beauty in baseball is you don't have to be that big market to have success. You could be the St. Louis Cardinals. Look what they've built over the years.
Absolutely.
Look at the Atlanta Braves. Like there are blueprints out there where you can have success and do it your own way. And frankly, I think and I think there'll be Dodger fans in this chat that don't want to give the Padres credit, but they should give the Padres credit because the Padres have been a much interesting storyline over the last 5 years, which will take me to. I want to throw one real quick here on Mike Shildt. So Mike Shildt, Padres manager, just got a 2-year extension. What's your take on the Padres re-signing him or extending him out? And what do you think is the future for the Padres here over these next couple of years? How much can they potentially? I think the ultimate goal has got to be for San Diego. You got to be in the mix of the playoffs year after year. That's the goal, right? Just get in, and then anything can happen after that. Do you feel confident that that's going to be the case, or do you feel like the way these, you get in for a year, you're out a year, get in for a year? That's kind of how it's been for the last 5 years.
Yeah, it's been up and down. There's no doubt about that. I'm very concerned going into 2025. We'll see how free agency works. We'll see what type of trades they can possibly make. But losing Musgrove's going to hurt them. They got to figure out the shortstop. Can Xander Bogaerts come back and be that all-star shortstop, or move to second base permanently and get that bat with a little more power? That's a question mark. Cronenworth, I'd try to move right now. I see him going backwards, to be honest with you. He had an awful final 3 months, didn't perform in the postseason under a long-term contract. I'd try to move him in some capacity. I mean, who's going to be your left fielder? I mean, we're going to talk about it on my show today as well. I mean, there's rumors out there. Kansas City may be going after Profar, 3 years, $45 million. Well, if that's the case, goodbye, Jerks and Profar. Thank you for the memories. I'm not giving him $15 million at 32 years of age. And then you got to figure out what you're going to do behind the plate. I mean, Kyle Higashioka did a very nice job, but in April, Allen, he's going to be 35 years of age.
Wow.
Hit a career high 17 home runs. He made a little over 2 million, I think 2.4 million. Now they're saying he could get a 2-year deal for $15 million. That's a lot of money for what should be your backup catcher. I think I'd have to pass on that. But again, the catching shortage around baseball and the level of experience and knowledge and talent, really kind of an all-time low at the catcher position.
Mike Shildt, you happy with what he's been able to do? Right manager for the Padres moving forward?
Well, I think not only the right manager for the players, but I think the right manager for the general manager. I mean, it's been an ongoing saga here in San Diego that the managers can't get along with the general manager, AJ Preller. And I think, number one, this was AJ's last chance. If he had another problem with Shildt, then he'd probably be walking the plank if they didn't have a good year. But I think he earned it. I would have probably, Alan, and I said this before, I would have probably given him a 1-year extension. He'd be under contract for 25 and 26. That matches up with the general manager, AJ
Right.
Preller, who's got his contract through 2026. But again, AJ has another good year. He's going to get a nice contract extension. And now they're going to work on Ruben Niebla, their pitching coach, and some of the other coaches, as well as some of their front office. So they're trying to keep a lot of good people in Padre colors for a few more years, which is a good thing.
All right, Coach, final one I got for you here. I'm going to switch back real quick to the Dodgers. Blake Trinan, Kike Hernandez, Joe Kelly, Teoscar Hernandez, Jack Flaherty, Walker Buehler, a number of names that the Dodgers got to figure out what they're going to do with. Of the names that I just mentioned, who do you think should be the priority for the Dodgers of those names?
Well, I think you got to talk to Teoscar Hernandez. I think number one, he wants to be a Dodger. I'm not saying he's going to take an LA discount, but he has said right from really the middle of the season after the All-Star game where he won the home run hitting contest, he wants to be a Dodger. And I think he's very well liked on that team. I think that would be big. Jack Flaherty, I think, is going to be in the mix. Alan, I was going to save it for my show, but I'll throw it out on your show. The other night, the boys up there in LA, I had a nice little dinner party and a celebration. And I guess the free agent from the Atlanta Braves, Max Fried, was at that get together. So now a lot of people are figuring a kid that went to Harvard Westlake, who was a teammate of Jack Flaherty, maybe he'll be headed to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Can you imagine putting Max Fried in that pitching staff with all the guys that are coming back? And then you also have heard about Roki Sasaki. He could be
I already have a
posted.
migraine.
Yeah, he could be posted this winter, and you know what? They wouldn't have to sign him to a big deal. He'd be like almost international free agent. So they get him 4 or 5 million probably, and he could be under contract for a few years. So very interesting stuff going on up there. Walker Bueller. A lot of people are thinking he could get a 1-year deal at 15 million. Dodgers didn't give him that qualifying offer at 21 million. I have a feeling they're going to try to get him back in some way, shape, or form. I mean, what is the Dodgers' limit? I mean, is there any kind of limit?
Well, and here's the crazy part. The crazy part is whatever pressure was on the organization, they could breathe a sigh of relief now. And now that entire organization from top to bottom, I think there's a they can play and make decisions that are a little looser. And there isn't this, you got to win, you got to win. I mean, of course, that's going to be their goal every single year, but they could start next year with Glass now, Yamamoto, Otani, Sasaki, and I don't know who else that they potentially get, or just maybe some of the arms that are just getting healthy. I don't know what the limits are. You've heard Corbin Burns' name be thrown out there. Like you just mentioned, the Dodgers heavily favored to land Roki Sasaki in free agency if he, obviously ends up coming over. I don't know what the limits are, and I think what's going to make them most dangerous moving forward is the fact that they got the one in Otani's first year. It's going to kind of change the script of what happens. So I know for a lot of Dodger fans, they got to be feeling great about it.
Hey, let me say this: the Dodgers may do what they've done in Japan forever, and that's pitch guys once a week. And when you take a look at the schedule now, the way Major League Baseball is kind of factored things out, there are a lot of games that aren't on Monday. There are a lot of games that aren't on Thursday now. Teams are their days off are getting spread out a little bit better now. I could see the Dodgers going to a 6-man rotation. And I don't think Dave Roberts or the Dodgers have probably ever talked about this, but I talked about this before Otani ever signed with the Dodgers. I thought before he got hurt with the Angels, and there was always talk about, he's having problems and, his arm, blah, 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 blah. I said, you know what? Make him a closer. Let him throw 2 or 3 innings a week. Let him DH, and then you bring him in the 9th inning. Let him be a closer. Let him throw 100 miles an hour. You only need 2 pitches to be a closer. And you may be able to get more out of him on the mound as a closer rather than as a starter because he's only going to throw 5 innings usually.
Yeah, and they've and the way they've used Yamamoto, it sounds like that's going to be their game plan is pitch him every 6 days, something along those lines. So yeah, you might be right. That's exactly what's happening. Well, I'm already, my stomach is getting sick of just thinking about how good the Dodgers are probably going to be for years to come. So I think that's where we should stop it then, Coach. I think that's where we should stop it.
Well, you know what? I'm a big believer, Alan, when I was coaching. I worry about my ball club. Let's just worry about getting the Padres better.
There you go.
And let's get back out on the field. And you know what? Every mound in baseball is 60 feet, 6 inches. Every plate is 17 inches wide. Okay. Go out there, put the best ball club you can out there and go against the Dodgers. They're not going to win every game. And hey, let's face it, Padres won the season series and they just let that series slip away this year. And you know what? Now, hopefully that'll motivate them to go at the Dodgers even that much harder next year.
Yeah, and I think, and we'll end it with this, they weren't ready for the moment. That's the best way that I can put it. I think the Dodgers they've been in the postseason so many years. They got so many guys with experience. They got guys that have won World Series. They have a manager that's obviously been there and done that a number of years as well. The failures, the success. The Padres, they didn't have that in their back pocket. And you could tell, when they went up 2-1 or when they won that game 2 at Dodger Stadium, the way they acted did not, in my opinion, personify how a champion would act. So I think there is no, could they have potentially beat the Dodgers? Yeah, but I don't think they were ready for the moment. And you have to be ready for the moment. And we'll see if that, opportunity comes again for them. But Coach, I appreciate it, brother. For those who don't know, John is also doing, and I've mentioned this before, he's doing a podcast on YouTube. San Diego Sports Talk is the channel. Obviously, very, very hyper-focused on the Padres in San Diego, but at the same time, he's talking all sports and talking a lot of stuff that's going on in SoCal. Coach, I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for being on, and we'll talk with you soon.
All right, Alan, thank you, and let's get those Lakers going tonight.
I know, Coach. All right, buddy. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. All right, that's John Kentera right there. Good man. It's good dude. Good dude. You know, for those who kind of know the industry, guy's been around for a long, long time. Long time. I've known him for a long time. When I was in San Diego, when I was working, there was a sports radio station out here called the Mighty 1090, and I worked with Coach for a number of years. So good dude. I'm happy that he's got a mic again, and he's doing it in a new format, right? This is the world that we're in. I mean, hell, you guys look at me. I left just a great job in the top market in the country, or one of the top markets in the country. But there's a space for everybody, and you could do it independently. And Coach is doing his thing as well. So I'm glad Coach came on. There were so many comments, so I starred a lot of these comments that were in there. You know, it's interesting. Kind of the Juan Soto piece of it. I guess I just didn't know. I think I had a little bit of an inclination. I guess I didn't know how many Dodger fans are like, nah, no thank you on Soto. I was looking this up earlier. I was looking up the contracts in Major League Baseball right now. Not contracts in Major League Baseball, Dodgers specific contracts. You know, I don't know if, let's not pretend here. Juan Soto is the absolute man. He's an unbelievable player, and whichever team signs him, obviously is going to have one of the best hitters in baseball for a number of years. But the question I would have with Juan Soto is, in 5 years or in 7 years or in 8 years or in 9 years, is that still a good contract? Well, I guess that's just that's the part of that's the cost of doing business, is the right way to put it. But if you do look at a lot of these Dodgers contracts that they have, even the ones that are big money, like you look at Mookie Betts, $365 million was his contract. And it's a 12-year contract, and his contract will end in 2032. But Mookie Betts, I think as that contract goes on, I don't think people are going to look at Mookie and say, hey, that's an awful contract. Trust me, there are much worse contracts in baseball. I wouldn't worry about Mookie's contract. Freddie Freeman's contract will end in 2027. That seems like it's almost the value of that contract is ridiculous. You could look at Will Smith and say, why would they sign this guy to a 10-year deal? It's $14 million a year. It's not like Will Smith's contract is taking up, 15, 20%, 25% of your salary. So you can go up and down the contracts for the Dodgers. And I think a lot of the contracts that they have, even when they go out and throw a lot of money, I still think they're being responsible. Shohei, you could say whatever you want, but Shohei's going to make his money back. And the guy in his first year went 50-50 and had just an unbelievable year. Will pitch next year and won a World Series in his first year. So the Soto thing, I think, is interesting. I would think that most Dodger fans would take the chance and the risk and say, no, absolutely, you should have Juan Soto, but that doesn't feel like that's the case. All right, let me look at some things here. What do we got here? I'm going to actually go back. All right, I like Kentera. Good stuff from him. Sleet, not so much. All right. Thank you, Dave. I thought you were coming after me. I was ready, bro. I was ready for you. I was like, you want to come after me? Well, who the hell do you think got Coach on the show this morning? Damn it. Slee gets the best guess. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I try to get guests that I feel like you guys will like, and we'll take our chances from there. Great takes from Coach. I like John's honesty. Good guy. He's a good dude. Great dude. Thank you, Sliwa. Not acting like a championship ball club. Very true. They didn't. It's the best way that I can put it. The Padres, they did not act like they were ready to win a World Series. It's the best way that I can put it. All right, I mentioned this. If you guys got any Ask Slees, on Wednesday, we do Ask Slee. and you could throw any question my way. I'm going to, I got a couple here that are already lined up, but as we kind of come to the end of the show, 5 minutes or so left, if you got any questions that you want to throw my way, you could ask about anything, talk about anything, and we'll do Ask Sleaze on Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, my dudes. Brewed my Kenyan beans on my V60 this morning. I think it's the most natural partnership that I can come up with right now. I got to find, and I haven't done a good job of doing this, but I have to find a good, um, either a coffee shop that's got all these locations in SoCal or a company that just sells their coffee online. I mean, I think that's a pretty good partnership right there. I mean, I freaking start the show with a cup of Joe. I sit here for the first 3-4 minutes sipping my coffee with everybody else. I think that's a good partnership there. Where is Sliwa's first remote going to be? Are you road tripping to SD? We need to know at Sliwa. So I'm working on some stuff in the background, and I think that will happen probably sooner than later, but I got to time it the right time. It will be through some type of a partnership, but I'll keep you guys posted. Let's leave it at that. I'll keep you guys posted. Let's keep going here. I actually like this question here. Somebody had a good question here. Such a good question that I did not oh, here it is. So, Sliwa, are you happy with your solo show and what goes into that? It's a good question. All right, that's a good Ask Slee right there. Okay, I got to be honest with you guys. Doing a solo show, and especially doing a show on YouTube, wildly different, completely different. I mean, still, you could say the foundation of it is still the same. You know, you're looking up sports topics. You're trying to find things outside of sports that you feel like your audience would be entertained with. I feel like this is literally exactly where I'm supposed to be. There's something about a solo show. And when I started Lakers Talk 8+ years ago, it was a solo show. I'm very, very comfortable doing a solo show. I like doing a solo show. I like also kind of driving and the ability to bring on guests that kind of help with the show. I got a guest on tomorrow, somebody who covers Ryan Abraham, who covers USC football. We'll talk a little bit about that. Friday, I think Doug McCain couldn't do today, so I think him and I are going to do Friday. I like also being able to just that one-on-one interaction. So to answer your question, I really enjoy doing this show specifically and a solo show. This also kind of challenges. It's part of my progression. You know, when I started doing radio, it was just Lakers, and that's kind of what everybody knew me for, was just Lakers, which is okay. I love talking Lakers basketball, talking NBA, but this, and even when I was doing the show with Travis, now you got all these different topics. It's forcing you to get out of just your comfort zone. And now I'm getting to a point where I actually, I'd be really disappointed if I was only talking about one thing, because I think there's a lot of other things that I'm interested in as well when it comes to sports. Great question. I appreciate you asking that question. And yes, I'm enjoying it, and it's completely different. All right, let's get a couple more of these here. Let's see what else we got here. Question: why doesn't Lakers management talk more? I don't know if I have an answer to that. I don't think there's a reason or a strategy there. I think they just kind of keep to themselves and do what they do, and that's kind of how the organization runs. I don't think you need to have a mic in front of you every time to answer every question that a fan wants or a fan is curious about. But I do think for the Lakers, where everything is so much different, at the end of the day, here's what it comes down to Laker fans a lot of times. And this is what they've built. They've built these expectations of you have to be good. I think what it comes down to at the end of the day is, are you producing or not? Are you heading in the right direction or not? And I think that has a lot to do with it. And the mic gets louder when the Lakers aren't doing their job, and when they are doing their job, then it's nobody really says as much, because that's what the expectations are. That's what they're supposed to be doing. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, that's an interesting one. Guatemalan coffee for me this morning, straight from Guatemala. I like that. I had my cousin texting me the last couple of days. He's like, "Slee, I watch your show, and he's sending me a photo of his Starbucks. He's going into Starbucks every morning. He's like, the way you're promoting coffee, it's like for the whole industry is capitalizing. The whole industry. All right, see if we get one more here, and then we'll call it a day. What did I mention here? I think I had it in some of my comments here. Update on the business. All right, I got some sales packages that I got to put together today. Yeah, we got a couple interesting potential partnerships here. So today I got to put the sales hat. I thought the sales hat was supposed to be just on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now I got to mix Wednesdays in as well. But no, it's going to be obviously a big part of what the channel is. The success of this channel is going to depend on two things. Number one, it's going to depend on, do you guys like it or not? And this will be the foundation of it. It's going to be completely up to the listeners of whether this channel has real success down the road. But to be honest with you, I feel like I'm going to chip away every single day, and I think that's going to happen either way. One of these days, I am going to offer memberships for the channel, but I'm probably overthinking all of this. I need to just make that happen and figure it out. The other portion of what will make the channel successful, got to have partnerships. That's going to be critical to allow me to then invest more and more into the channel. There's a lot I'd like to do into the channel. So putting together these sponsorships and these partnerships are going to be key to it. So that's my update on the business side. I know I put that in the notes here. All right. I think we are good for today. Tomorrow. All right. Hawkman. Okay. I'll answer this one and we'll call it a day. Slee, what's your end goal with the solo run? Yeah, I think probably the end goal will be, can I create a show called The Sleewa Show and have it on multiple platforms, maybe even have it back on terrestrial radio, but still be able to do the show the way I want to do the show. And I think if at the end of the day, I'm able to kind of have my own business with my own show and really re-involved in the sales process and get the show on multiple platforms. That could be radio, that could be TV, obviously all the social platforms. I think that will be the goal of that show specifically, or this show specifically. And then one day I got to help SD out and go kind of full focus on San Diego, but we'll do that when the time is right. All right, my people, thank you very much for hanging out. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Hopefully, wherever side you were on last night, nobody's too stressed or any of that stuff. It is what it is. Like I say, yeah, a lot of people way over here. A lot of people, it's kind of a little closer to the middle here. I think that's a good idea out there. My brother, thank you for that. Thank you for the super. I appreciate that. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. I'm back on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. If you're a big SC fan or you just want a perspective on USC, I'm going to have Ryan Abraham on tomorrow. Covers USC for USCfootball.com to talk a little bit about what's going on with USC in their world. Tonight, I will be talking Lakers and the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll be doing our post-game show. So we got a lot still going on with the channel the rest of the day. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. I'll get back with you guys tomorrow, and hope you guys have a great rest of your morning and a great rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.